Aikwe Naknamalita, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. Today I will be doing my most anticipated releases, round 3. So for round 3, we're doing July, August, and September, the third quarter of 2022. Yeah, I try to keep up to date on the new releases, but I don't know everything. So if there's anything in, like, I know I'm always still looking for any 2022 release. I'm not sure why, but I feel like I'm relatively on top of it this year, and that's 2022 releases currently are what I have been really focusing on in terms of reading. So if there's anything that in my part 1 or part 2 that I missed for those particular months, feel free to let me know. I'll see if I'm interested in add them to a list, essentially. So let's get into this part 3. July, our first date is July 12th, and we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. So a lot of you probably already know about this because of Kayla from Books and Lala. She's been doing basically collecting books that have rabbits on them for a blog that she intends on reading or doing in July, I believe. This is part of it, and this is a horror and retelling. I'm not sure what retelling it is. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So it's a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic, The Fall of the House of Usher, which I should have known. I remember Kayla talking about that as well. But basically, we are following retired soldier Alex Easton, who receives that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, and they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruritania. And when they get there, it's a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a redoubtable British mycologist and a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. So I'm very much interested in this. The cover in general intrigues me, and I've been particularly leaning towards horror lately. I think this summer, for some reason, that's kind of the theme, is like this horror thriller type of vibe, I feel like. Next is another horror. It also comes out July 12th, and that is Wake the Bones by Elizabeth Kilcoyne. The sleepy little farm that Laurel Early grew up on has awakened. The woods are shifting, the soil is dead under her hands, and the bone pile just stood up and walked away. After dropping out of college, all she wanted to do was resume her life as a tobacco hand and taxidermist and try not to think about the boy she can't help but love. Instead, a devil from her past has returned to court her as he did her mother years earlier. Now Laurel must unravel her mother's terrifying legacy and tap into her own innate magic before her future and her fate of everyone she loves is doomed. Again, a very interesting cover that has reeled me in. It comes off immediately as fantasy, supposedly, in the genre, and then horror. It's also young adult and paranormal elements to it. Should be really interesting. The next one is scheduled to come out July 19th, and that is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. So Sarah Gailey, I was interested in after reading When We Were Magic. So I liked the writing style of Sarah Gailey, and this one just kind of made me. The cover, first off, is very interesting. If it has a good cover, it definitely intrigues me a bit more. But Sarah Gailey, I enjoyed the writing of When We Were Magic, but there was just certain things that didn't quite make it for me. So I think I wanted to try Sarah Gailey's adult, particularly this horror thriller element. So Vera's mother has called Vera home, and Vera has obeyed. In spite of their long estrangement, in spite of the memories, she's come back home back to the home of a serial killer, back to face the love she had for her father and the bodies he buried there. Coming home is hard enough for Vera, and to make things worse, she and her mother aren't alone. A parasitic artist has moved into the guest house out back and is slowly stripping at Vera's childhood for spare parts. He insists that he isn't the one leaving notes around the house in her father's handwriting, but who else could it possibly be? There are secrets yet undiscovered in the foundations of the notorious Crowder house. Vera must face them and find out for herself just how deep the rot goes. That sounds very creepy. Yeah, there's like, it kind of, I don't know. It feels like there might be a paranormal element to it, but that's relatively low on the genre list, so I'm curious about it. I'm always paranormal, I'm intrigued, but I'm always kind of hesitant with it too, just because it's something that both my partner and I like don't want to mess with at all, because we don't know, right? Like there are like we ultimately just don't know, and it's just something that we would rather be safe than sorry for. So next we have a book that's coming out July 26th, and that is A Half-Built Garden by Ruthana Maris. This is the science fiction adult, and it's set in the future. On a warm March night in 2083, Judy Wallach Stevens wakes to a warning of unknown pollutants in the Chesapeake Bay. She heads out to check what she expects to be a false alarm and stumbles upon the first alien visitors to Earth. These aliens have crossed the galaxy to save humanity, convinced that the people of Earth must leave their ecologically ravaged planet behind and join them among the stars. And if humanity doesn't agree, then they may need to be saved by force. So, also another gorgeous cover. Very intrigued. Aliens and climate fiction. So I feel like there was another one in July that actually Goodreads has wrong. I don't know if they pushed it back or if Goodreads just has it wrong. What was it called? Okay, so this one also comes out July 12th, or at least that's what bookshop.org says. But for some reason Goodreads has the release date on March 3rd, because I tried pre-ordering this and it just wouldn't happen. But this is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Leah is changed. Months earlier she left for a routine expedition, only this time her submarine sank to the sea floor. When she finally surfaces and returns home, her wife Mary knows that something is wrong. Barely eating and lost in her thoughts, Leah rotates between rooms in their apartment, running the taps morning and night. As Miri searches for answers, desperate to understand what happened below the water, she must face the possibility that the woman she loves is slipping from her grasp. So this is also horror, it's also LGBTQ. It sounds really intense. It's something that has always freaked me out in a couple of books. I think that in terms of like, especially even in documentaries, when people go into those little submarine, like little one-man submarines and end up diving into the water, it freaks me out that like it takes hours to get down to where they want to go, and ultimately if something goes wrong, there's no helping because they're so far down there. These are such unique crafts. I think Jeremy Wade was saying something about that when he went down. I think there was a couple others that I've seen go down and talk about it. I know that in Shauna McGuire, aka Mira Grant's book, The Drowning Deep, they ended up killing someone off something similar. Basically it was like something, but like it's something that freaks me out. Ocean is something that ultimately does implement fear but also curiosity in me, and it's one of those ones that despite my fear I'm always constantly trying to learn about. But yeah, this one seems like it would be very, very intense in terms of after coming up from something like that. And then for the final one for July, I'm not sure how I feel about the cover of this one. It looks interesting. But it's, I don't know. I'm always iffy when it comes to illustrations of people on the cover. You would hope that the cover artist has read the book to be better understand what the mood or how the people should look. But there's been a couple books that I read that the cover didn't fit, I felt like, or like it was hard to figure out. Just like, wait, am I reading the same? Like, did they even read the book? Because the characters on the cover don't look like anything of how those characters were described within the book. So, but this one is The Witchery by S. Isabel. This is a bewitching debut, perfect for fans of Maggie Stiefvater, Zoraida Cordova, and Leigh Bardugo. So I haven't read Maggie Stiefvater. The haunting season is here and the wolves are awake. Halesford, Florida is a hellmouth. Or at least that's what Logan, a baby witch struggling to control her powers, thinks as she arrives to the witch town to begin the new school year of Most Mortis Covenant Academy. She is immediately taken under the wing of the infamous Red 3. Iris is a death witch who wants nothing more than to break the town's curse. Jayla is one of the most powerful witches at the academy, but her thirst for power may lead her down a dark path. And Talia, the talented Green Witch, is on the run from her religious family and a past that still haunts her. Fear and prejudice still fuel the uneasy truce between humans and witches who were forced to work together when the haunting season begins, and wolves rise from the swamp to feed. With this approaching, two Hammersmith boys prepare to make their first sacrifices to the witches in exchange for protection, but as they become involved with the Miss Mortis, witches plan to end the wolves' reign of terror once and for all. Old dangers lie in wait. So yeah, the premise of this sounds really interesting. It's for some reason, like, I like the illustration of the cover. Characters on the cover kind of make me hesitate. But yeah, it sounds like one I'm excited for some witchy books. Okay, now we're into a new month. We're into August. And the first one we have is out August 2nd. I lie. No, August 9th. Wait. So Goodreads is being weird. And it could just be based off of whatever edition I happen to add to this list. But it's telling me two different dates, August 2nd or August 9th. It looks like the Kindle edition is out August 9th. Let me see about the physical version is out August 2nd. So this one is The Book Eaters by Suni Dean. Out on the Yorkshire moors lives a secret line of people for whom books are food and who retain all of the book's content after eating them. To them, spy novels are a peppery snack. Romance novels are sweet and delicious. Eating a map can help them remember destinations, and children, when they misbehave, are forced to eat dry, musty pages of dictionaries. And that's all I know. That's all I really want to know. This is like a really interesting premise. The cover is very similar, in the similar vein of the Book Jumpers, which I have yet to read, but very curious about this. It is fantasy fiction, LGBTQ, and adult, with some horror elements, it looks like, so it's going to be interesting. I don't remember adding this one, but I think it must be because I saw the title, but it didn't have a cover yet. It now has a cover, but this one is out August 9th, and it's The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. So this is a historical fiction fantasy, Washington, D.C., 1925. Clara Johnson talks to spirits, a gift that saved her during her darkest moments in a Washington, D.C. jail, now a curse that's left her indebted to the cunning spirit world. So when the Empress, the powerful spirit who holds her debt, offers her an opportunity to gain her freedom, a desperate Clara seizes the chance. The task: steal a magical ring from the wealthiest woman in the district. Clara can't pull off this daring heist alone. She'll need help from an unlikely team, from a jazz musician capable of hypnotizing with a melody to an aging vaudeville actor who has changed his face to pull off the impossible. But as they encounter increasingly difficult obstacles, a dangerous spirit interferes at every turn. Conflict in the spirit world is leaking into the human one, and along DC's legendary Black Broadway, and mystery unfolds. One that not only has repercussions for Clara, but all of the city's residents. Also very interesting. It sounds like another paranormal witchy element to it. Another horror is The Undead Truth of Us by Brittany S. Lewis. Death is everywhere. They all stare at me, bumping into one another and slowly coming forward. 16-year-old Zari Young is absolutely certain her mother morphed into a zombie before her untimely death, but she can't seem to figure out why her mother died, why her aunt doesn't want her around, why all her dreams seem suddenly hopelessly out of reach, and why ever since that day she's been seeing zombies everywhere. Then Bo moves into her apartment building, tall, skateboard in hand, freckles like stars, and undeniable charm. Z wants nothing to do with him, but when he transforms into a half zombie right before her eyes, something feels different. He contradicts everything she thought she knew about monsters, and she can't help but wonder if getting to know him might unlock the answers to her mother's death. As Zari sifts through what's real and what's magic, she discovers a new truth about the world. Love can literally change you for good or for dead. So this sounds like it's going to be heavy hitting, very interesting. I'm really curious about it. Also, the cover is absolutely gorgeous. So, and I apologize, I keep looking over in this direction. That's where my screen is. Next, we have Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. And this one is scheduled supposedly to come out August 1st, even though on the little date of publication it says August 16th. August 16th is the correct date. So this one, turns out that reading nothing but true crime isn't exactly conducive to modern dating, and one woman is going to have to learn how to give love a chance when she's used to suspecting the worst. PhD candidate Phoebe Walsh has always been obsessed with true crime. She's even analyzing the genre in her dissertation if she can manage to finish writing it. It's hard to find the time while she's spending the summer in Florida, cleaning out her childhood home, dealing with her obnoxious, good-natured younger brother, and grappling with the complicated feelings of mourning a father she hadn't had a relationship with for years. It doesn't help that she's low-key convinced that her new neighbor, Sam Dennings, is a serial killer. He may dress business casual by day, but at night he's clearly up to something. It's not long before Phoebe realizes that Sam might be something much scarier, a genuinely nice guy who can pierce her armor to reach her vulnerable heart. So this is a romance contemporary with a hint of mystery. It sounds really fun and funny, considering I too like to read true crime every now and then and listen to it as well. Thankfully I have a partner that kind of deals with it, so this one seems like it would be fun. This one, okay, so I added it without actually knowing what it was about, so we're going to figure that out together. So this is Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, an Arcane History of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. Okay, now I vaguely remember hearing about this by R.F. Kuang. So R.F. Kuang wrote the Poppy War series, which I have yet to finish. But Traditor. An act of translation is always an act of betrayal. 1828, Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by a mysterious Professor Lovell. Here he trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institution of Translation, also known as Babel. Babel is the world's center of translation, and more importantly, of silver working, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation through enchanted silver bars to magical effect. Silver working has made the British Empire unparalleled in power, and Babel's research in foreign languages serves the empire's quest to colonize everything it encounters. So I don't really want to get much more into this because this is a historical fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy of sorts, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Yeah, this is out August 23rd. Okay, and then finally September. Let's see what's all we have in here. Should only be a couple more books. So with this one, we have Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Barwa. This is expected to come out September 6th. She grew up battling the monsters that live in the Black Seas, but it couldn't prepare her to face the cunning cruelty of the ruling elite. For fans of the Hunger Games and Fable, I haven't read Fable. The South Asian inspired fantasy is a gripping debut about the power of the elite, the price of glory, and one girl's chance to change it all. This is fantasy young adult adventure. We're following 16-year-old Coral and her older brother Emmerich risk their lives each day to capture the monstrous merstags that live in the Black Seas around their island. They have to, or else their family will starve. In an oceanic world swarming with vicious beasts, the Landers, the ruling elite, have indentured Coral's family to provide the Meristags for the glory race. A deadly chariot tournament is reserved for the upper class. The winning contender receives gold and glory. The others, if they're lucky, survive. When the last Meristag of the year escapes and Coral has no new Meristag to sell, the family's financial situation takes a turn for the worse, and they can't afford medicine for her chronically ill little sister. Coral's only choice is to do what no one in the world has ever dared, cheat her way into the glory race. But every step of the way is unpredictable as Coral races against contenders, including her ex-boyfriend, who have trained for this their entire lives and who have no intention of letting a low-caste girl steal their glory. When a rebellion rises and rogues attack Coral to try and force her to drop out, she must choose her life or her sister's before the whole island burns. This sounds really intense and interesting. I'm really excited for it. Also, another one that's like absolutely gorgeous in cover. 2022 is hitting the cover art like perfectly. Okay, so this one is out September 13th, and it's As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. This is the young adult historical fiction contemporary. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. Salma Kassab was a pharmacy student when the cries for freedom broke out in Syria. She still had her parents and her big brother. She still had her home. She had a normal teenage life. Now Salama volunteers at a hospital in Homs, helping the wounded who flood through the doors daily. Secretly, though, she is desperate to find her way out of her beloved country before her sister-in-law Layla gives birth. So desperate that she has manifested a physical embodiment of her fear in the form of her imagined companion, Kof, who haunt her every move in an effort to stay safe. But even with Kof pressing her to leave, Salama is torn between her loyalty to her country and her conviction to survive. Salama must... I'm not sure when that stopped recording. But she's constantly trying to figure out like her loyalty to her country and her like fear. And then she ends up meeting a boy that makes her question if she should leave altogether, as well as realizing some of the events for what they are, as not war but revolution, and trying to figure out where her place in that revolution and her cry for her country will lie. So it sounds very intense, very interesting. The next one is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen, and this is scheduled to come out August 30th. It's a magical realism, fiction, fantasy, contemporary. Between the real and imaginary, there are stories that take flight in the most extraordinary ways. Right off the coast of South Carolina, on Mallow Island, the Del Wisp sits. A stunning old cobblestone building shaped like a horseshoe and named after the tiny turquoise birds who, alongside its human tenants, inhabit the air of magical secrecy. When Zoe comes to claim her deceased mother's apartment on an island outside the Charleston, she meets her quirky and secretive neighbors, including a girl on the run two estranged middle-aged sisters, a lonely chef, a legendary writer, and three ghosts, each with their own story, each with their own longings, each whose ending isn't yet written. So another one that's cover is absolutely gorgeous. I actually just found this one earlier today. I'm very curious about it. There's one more also out, and September 20th is Eternally Yours by, looks like it's a collection edited by Patrice Cadwell. But it has people like Kaylin Barron, Kendar Blake, Kat Cho, Melissa Dela Cruz, Hafsa Faisal, Sarah Gailey, Chloe Kong. So this is an anthology where vampires and merpeople, angels and demons, the paranormal is full of unusual beings. The stories in this anthology imagine worlds where the only thing more powerful than supernatural is love. And that's all that's really about it, and that's all I really want to know. So it should be really interesting. Another cover that's like absolutely gorgeous. I'm really curious about it and see all these writers, see what these writers have to offer to it. And that's it for my anticipated reads or anticipated releases of 2022 part 3. There we go. Yeah, if there's one that I haven't mentioned, like, again, please feel free to mention it down in the comments down below. Otherwise, what are you anticipating? What are you hoping to read? Are any of these on your radar now, or have been on your radar that you're excited for? Yeah, so if you made it this far, I'd do another strawberry, I guess. Otherwise, I hope that you're in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading, and I will see you in another video very soon. Chew.